Greetings and welcome
Hi.
to another Komodo community podcast. I'm a Giuliano and joined this time by Jason from Komodo. Jason, thanks so much for joining today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Right, so you're working with Komodo. Do you want to briefly describe what that's about?
Sure. Just for people who haven't seen me before, my name is Jason Brown. I'm head of business development at Komodo Platform. I've been, part of the organization even before Komodo was around, back when it was SuperNet on the NXT platform. And my main focus really is to help different businesses, enterprise solutions to actually utilize blockchain technology in general, but Komodo in specific, and with a real focus on our atomic swap technology.
Excellent. Well, again, thanks for joining. And that is why I wanted to talk to you, is because you have a lot of familiarity with Komodo over time. Komodo's been working on atomic swap technology for years, and you are directly involved with promoting the DEX, decentralized exchange. And I figured your perspective would be great for us to hear. Now, when it comes to the decentralized exchange, considering, like you said, where you came from, where it's come from, and now where it is today, we've got a stress test coming up very shortly. It's not the first one that has happened. Do you want to describe a little bit what you've seen, how it's changed, and how you're feeling about that right now?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give it a little bit of the history behind our development and where we're at today. AtomicDEX was long time ago called InstantDEX, which was built on the NXT platform, is where we really started getting into the atomic swap technology, and where JL777 first completed the first, among the first of the atomic swaps. Now, back then, this was done in a very manual sense. There was no order matching. You had to send, the UTXOs to each person, and it was a kind of a mess, but it proved the concept. Over the years, we started developing a GUI and released another version of it called BarterDEX. Now, what different this time? There was a order matching service that was codenamed Market Maker 1. Now this order matching service was done through blockchain networks. However, we found out due to prior testing that there were some bottlenecks regarding this, especially with completion of the actual order matching itself. Though it did scale really well in terms of the amount of connections and trades could be going on simultaneously, it just had a hard time actually matching. So back to the drawing board, we progressed from BarterDEX, rewrote the entire matching engine, and created what was codenamed Market Maker 2. This is an independent peer-to-peer network, so it's not actually routed. It's not used a lot utilizing the blockchain to do its peer-to-peer messaging to match the orders, but it's a network created off of libtorrent that is used to that is more optimized for this type of order matching, because that's actually kind of one of the secret sauces behind AtomicDEX in general, is that our order matching system is very different than other types of systems, and for good reason. And we'll go into that a little bit later. So after Market Maker 2, we started building out a GUI. We first started with a mobile version of the AtomicDEX because everyone's really moving to mobile and browser-based things. So while we do recommend people use the actual full application for security purposes, we realize that you can't teach your dog new tricks, and you gotta basically provide what people are going to use, right? You can build the best application, but if it's not in a format they can use it, then won't get used. So about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, I think it's like last 2 Halloweens ago, we had our first stress test, and we found some bottlenecks. The order matching portion, it was kind of actually the opposite problem we had from Market Maker 1, is that now we got the order matching problem solved completely. The order matching was happening perfectly, but it wasn't scaling as well. So the past year, we basically rewrote everything again, and now we're testing the optimized version of Market Maker 2 to complete these orders. We had about a couple of weeks ago, inadvertent stress test due to some popularity of some coins that some trade pairs that were on AtomicDEX, but it's so it gave us a good indication that we'll be able to handle it. So we're pretty confident that the stress test will be successful, and once we complete that, we can launch have a more official, like, stable, still probably call it beta version, even though it'd be like more production ready, more ready for prime time.
Cool. Very cool. Thanks for that history. It's really fascinating, and I'm glad that we get a reminder of how difficult this is. That was going to be one of my first questions, is why true cross-chain atomic swaps are so meaningful. And maybe it's partly because they're so difficult, but why are they so meaningful? And what do true cross-chain atomic swaps open up for the crypto industry generally, based on your perspective?
So atomic swaps are, I believe, at least to me, are very meaningful, and for several reasons. One is the non-custodial aspect. We hear that word being thrown around a lot, but a lot of the solutions out there rely on at least partial custody of another party, whether that's like a multi-signature address, whether that's depositing into a smart contract to get a wrap token, whether it's like multi-party computation where they're holding part of the key and you're holding part of the key, and then where AtomicDEX, you have full control of the keys and the funds throughout each step of the process. So I think that's definitely one of the major reasons why AtomicDEX is important. Another reason is that from a security aspect, beyond just the custodial sense, the trading. So atomic in the phrase atomic swaps refers to atomicity, which means basically something's in a state or it's not. There is no liminal state. So in our case, it's that either a trade completes or it doesn't complete at all and you get refunded back. So this as well, I think, is very one of the important points. And also its capability of communicating between blockchains is something that is very a strong selling point as well. Every other solution out there, or at least maybe not every other one, but majority of other solutions out there are based off of proxy exchanges. So you typically have to take your coin, pause in some sort of smart contract or some sort of multi-signature gateway. They issue a token on their, on the chain where the actual exchange is, and you do your trading there and eventually have to withdraw, unwrap, and get your real coin back. So all these additional steps are cut out within the atomic swap process. There's no waiting for deposit. There's no doing your trade on a third party or a third party chain exchange. Like the trades don't happen through a DEX contract like on Ethereum or something. They happen across chain. So that prevents kind of a locking in, a vendor lock-in, which is very important to us. We think crypto should be open and free and should be continuously developing, and we think that locking people into one sort of chain, like Komodo in our instance, or Ethereum, it could be any chain, is really not the way to go. It's kind of, it's very, it stops people from developing to their full capacity.
Well, yeah, and I've noticed that recently there's excitement about being able to, I think the term is wrap the tokens, or basically get, let's say, Bitcoin onto an Ethereum. And I think there's a hunger for that ability. And you're saying that with this DEX, AtomicDEX technology, Komodo's technology here is offering an interoperability, which is more direct and also diverse.
Correct, yes. So also to give a little bit of history as well, our lead developer, JL777, created like what we consider the first wrapped tokens back in like 2014. So we're familiar with these technologies before, and we've done it, but there are some limitations, and they have actually been seen in like Ethereum today. And one of the main ones is the fee structure. So there's a conflict of interest between wanting the price of the coin to drive up and the cost of transactions on the chain due to that increased usage, which then makes certain coins that would be, coins that are worth less than the parent chain coin to be wrapped on would cost actually more to swap by putting it on that third-party chain than it would just swap directly, because you're paying that fee in that third-party coin.
Understood.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so we recognize the limitations of these. We call them proxy token dexes, but I guess they're calling them wrapped coins and stuff now.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm familiar with proxy token DEX from Komodo, from hearing it through Komodo channels, and so now it's interesting to make that connection, that this wrapping and the proxy token, it is, and
it's two words for the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so considering that, when you want to be able to use, let's say, Bitcoin on Ethereum as the big example, now you're able to do this with AtomicDEX. It's a slightly different purposes, right? You're not just trying to take it and wrap it onto that other chain. Can you just describe a little bit of the differences here?
Sure. So, okay, I guess we'll start with how the proxy token exchange works, and then how the atomic swap works. So the proxy token exchange, you would take your Bitcoin, you deposit into the smart contract or gateway. They issue you a token, you do your trading. When you're done, you withdraw out. On atomic swap, you match up with a counterparty via a secondary order matching layer system, market maker 2 in our case. It could be done manually as well, as we've seen other projects do. And then you send a secret, or part of a secret to them that allows them to spend your part of the trade. They do the same, allows you to spend their part of the trade. And if at any time that somebody's not handing off their portion of the secret, then they can't claim the other, what they're trying to get. Now, so it's a lot of steps that are necessary for a proxy token exchange, so it just totally eliminates that. Also, a lot of trust and security mechanisms due to the atomicity. So with proxy token exchanges, there have been several high-profile hacks that have happened due to how they do the system. So I'll give you an example. If you deposit coins and get issued a token, if there's some issue with that token contract that allows more tokens to be printed or released than there are deposits, somebody could then take those excess tokens, essentially drain everybody's funds, steal from everybody. So the atomic swaps prevent that, because there is no pool that funds where people can withdraw from, because it's only your own coins.
Right, it's direct. Okay, and I think Well, either way, I think I'm just going to move on from that. The idea of the wrapping versus atomically trading, I think, is also there are some nuances there, and I don't really want to go into that too much. I want to stay focused here on the AtomicDEX and why it's so meaningful to the crypto industry. And maybe you want to further explain a little bit, like, okay, there are going to be differences depending on which chain is being swapped, right? For example, if you're using Bitcoin or Ethereum in as part of your swap, or even if you're swapping Bitcoin and Ethereum for each other, that would be different, for example, than swapping Komodo for one of its asset chains, or even swapping Komodo for Litecoin, let's say. And that would have to do with things like the block times, the fee structures, that sort of thing. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So when you're looking at this and you're looking at promoting this to use cases, what are you noticing as some of the strongest use cases and directions that this technology can be going?
Okay, so yeah, that was a good question. So the number one thing that I've seen that where atomic swaps outshines everybody else at is settlement, instant settlement. So when a trade's done, those coins are already in a wallet you control the full keys to. That's not available on a centralized exchange. Obviously, once you trade, you still have to withdraw out, and same with these proxy dexes. Now, this is something that is of great importance to a lot of like enterprise level players, because they don't want to have millions of dollars in limbo, waiting to be confirmed. I mean, that would make anybody nervous. So with the atomic, and they also want that that assurance that if something were to go wrong, that their funds aren't at risk. From being lost or stolen. So so the instant settlement is very, I think, the key selling feature. We touched on briefly, but the second main selling feature is I call it instant deposit. So you essentially just load your key, your seed phrase or your WIF into the wallet, and your coins are instantly accessible. Now, I speak from experience. I'm sure many crypto traders and other enthusiasts have had the same experience, is that one day they wake up and they look at coin market cap and all of a sudden coins on the run, right? And you're like, oh, I want to cash out, get some gains. Now, to think about the process to act on that, you're like, oh, you find out about it, now you have to send your coins to exchange, which at the very least, typically is between a half hour to up to like 2 hours plus waiting just to get it on the exchange, and then do the trade, which is pretty quick. We'll just say instant at this point. And then withdrawal, which typically they do it in batches, so you have to wait for an authorization period, and then withdrawal, which then also takes additional confirmation. So that's just so much time when everybody is trying to get the they see this run up, and there's a lot of competition to cash out. So atomic swaps allow you to instantly act, because as soon as your keys in, and bam, you can instantly initiate the trade.
Yeah. Okay. And so there are trade-offs in terms of time. With the atomic swaps, you're still, depending on which chains are swapping with each other, it might take longer, it might be faster. And same thing with the centralized exchange, depending on what coin you're putting onto the exchange, it might be longer or might be less time. But either way, it's comparable, the timing, to do one action or the other. But then when you measure it against other factors, for example, the security, the holding of your own keys, the non-custodial aspect of it, and that sort of a thing, you can start to see some very strong advantages of a true decentralized exchange, for example, like AtomicDEX. And that's very exciting for sure. And the fact that it already is on mobile, that's even more cool. because it just, I mean, people have already been making atomic swaps on their phone for some time now. You mentioned there was a stress test even a couple of Halloweens ago. So this is a long time that this has been happening, and that's amazing. Meanwhile, it seems as though a lot of people around the, let's call it the industry, are maybe not even aware that it's available yet to do such a thing, let alone on such a smooth level as AtomicDEX mobile, and in this case now also on desktop. Any thoughts about that?
Yes. So due to how it is it's kind of like the inverse of normal trading. So normal trading, the deposits, settlements happen very slowly, but the trade happens very quickly. And this being the complete inverse, the trade happens very slowly, but the deposit and settlement's instant. I think that has been kind of a roadblock. People are just used to a certain paradigm of how trading should be. So that is, will be a battle that we, are continually going to have to face in normal user adoption. However, in enterprise and business adoption, we see this as they're not so much concerned about trade times. Like as long as, the trade is executed, they're more concerned about, will they actually have the money in their account? So I more see that atomic swaps being a method for larger players, is like liquidity providers, miners, and such, that they do deals directly currently, and possibly like use like an escrow or something similar to that. To be able to make these private deals. They don't necessarily want to put their coins onto an exchange. They want to do everything off the books, or off the exchange books at least. So I see that is probably where the biggest use of AtomicDEX is going to come from, is these parties that have large amounts of liquidity. They want to deal with other people who have large amounts of liquidity, but they want to do so in a way not only is trustless, but private, or at least semi-private. And with AtomicDEX, you can put you can create your own, they call them net IDs, but it's kind of like a subnet that allows you to trade with your orders on the order book being private from any other net IDs order books. So you can have like at least some level of private trading. And then once your trades, basically you would open a channel with your other party, say, hey, go to this net ID, put your order up. You can even do some public key whitelisting if you really wanted to. Just to make sure nobody snakes that order out if they knew which place you were trading on. Once the trade's done, bam, just get off the net ID, and then it's like you weren't even there. So so
that's exciting.
It does have some benefits.
Yeah, that's very exciting. That's very exciting, especially because there's a lot of excitement for what's happening on a macro level now with, for example, Bitcoin, where you have big money players placing it on balance sheet. And then the expectation is that pattern will continue. And when big funds and other hopeful purchasers of these cryptos, when they're coming through, this sounds that, well, when you were describing that, that's what I was thinking of, was these types of players looking for liquidity, or even creating liquidity for each other. And then you mentioned now that you can even like white label some stuff and just kind of push it off to the side if you want to be specifically trading with certain parties. And I think that's fascinating. That really excites me a lot in terms of the potential of what's to come.
Oh yes, it's very good, and we've only really talked about like the swap portion of things. Atomic swap technology will be even a lot more expansive in the future. Even currently, we're investigating ways to do loans via atomic swaps, basically the same process that you would do for a trade, but to put that into how you would execute a peer-to-peer loan. We're also investigating on, we came across a project that was allowed you to atomic swap with a bank account. So you could trade your crypto and the bank account would basically have it would mimic a hash time lock contract. So you'd be able to actually, like push forward like a wire transfer or something like that in exchange. It's so like a fiat to crypto transfer, but all done through blockchain tech. And there's other things as well that regarding like options trading is something we've also been looking at. So it, don't think atomic swaps just means, oh, we're just swapping coins. It's just a trading thing. It's a whole technology that is really in its infancy, and it's going to really grow because I mean, at the end of the day, people want to make sure they when they're doing an exchange is that they're going to receive what they what they're supposed to, and that's one of the biggest fears that we see with people, whether they're a retail trader or an enterprise trader. They just want to make sure the deal goes off without a hitch, and atomic swaps allow that to happen.
Incredible. Wow. I'm blown away right now. And of course, I mean, it makes sense when I hear it coming from you now. Of course, it makes sense. This is just the infancy of this type of technology, and there are probable things that are not even considered. I'm sure I have no way of even thinking that far, but even from Komodo, I'm sure there are just little now that I'm hearing you talk about this, I can just imagine all the little things going off in all these brilliant minds day after day, and some of those things haven't even gone off yet. So that it makes me even more excited that there's just a lot of potential there beyond what is immediately the exciting part, which is the cross-chain atomic swaps. So that's great.
Yeah, and people should be made aware is that the actual atomic swap portion, we had that figured out for a while, like a long time now. That wasn't the problem. Why it's been taking so long. The problem has been creating a good decentralized order matching system. Because currently, even people who are doing atomic swaps, they either are doing a centralized type of system where like a one central party is providing all of the order matching, which leads to front running, or they utilize a blockchain based system like how we previously were doing, and that has its problems too, because that also can lead to front running via the miners. So there's that's really what's kind of going to be the secret sauce for even a lot of the future techs that we just talked about, because the loans, for instance, picture like AtomicDEX, in its current state, instead of just trading coins, you have coins that represent loan contracts, and I mean, it could just go even a lot crazier than that, because with blockchain tech, you could take a bunch of those loan contracts, lock them up in another contract that issues another coin that's like a collateralized debt position. So basically a basket of loans. We can bring full Wall Street to the to blockchain.
It's coming in one form or fashion or another, and this is the type of thing that's going to pull it pretty hard. I think when I imagine the potential that you're talking about here, they're coming. They don't even know what they're getting into yet. They don't know what's available, but I'm sure they're excited too about it, because it's clear that this is the direction that things are going. And oh man, Komodo is definitely out on the forefront here. I did want to ask a little bit, maybe one of the last questions here about there's going to be options for, well, firstly, this is open source technology, so anybody can take it, fork it, or whatever you want to call that, and then run it themselves in their own way, right?
Correct, yes.
And that's one thing I love about Komodo, is that you really take the ethos of cryptocurrency and you deliver on that, you build on it and deliver it on that, and that's amazing. You also are having options where you have white label DEX products, where, for example, if somebody's starting their own chain, their asset chain with Komodo, and they could have this as an option as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So we, which one to start with, the open source side or the white label? We'll start with the white label. I guess that's the easiest. So we do offer like our desktop version as a white label product. So if you launched your own chain, you can integrate into our DEX, so you'd be available for ours. You could also take the code and launch your own version, reskin it, whatever, put your own logo and stuff, and utilize your own DEX. The reason, part of the reason why I would say is that, with the recent global regulation, different countries are having, there's a definite split by how different countries and stuff are treating this type of software, especially if you're the entity who's releasing it, say like the App Store or wherever. So different groups are going to have different requirements. Some might have, some extremely strict KYC AML requirements if they're in like a more Western country. Some might not have any whatsoever. Regarding AtomicDEX, our official version does have a geo-blocking mechanism currently. Unfortunately, this is due to us being made aware of the recent EU and UK regulations regarding the FATF rules, which has some very vague clauses about arranging trades. So just to be better safe than sorry, we blocked certain countries from using until we figure out a more robust compliance policy. That being said, there is a version already out there released by Mamara Chain and Dr. Hopefully I don't butcher his name, Goldtekin Setiner.
Dr. Chetiner.
Yeah.
we love you, Dr. Chetner. I love you so much. Your energy is great. Anyway,
yes.
Continue.
So yes, he released a version, of the software. Like we said before, it's open source, so anybody can do this. That doesn't have that geo-blocking mechanism. And additionally, won't be ready in time for the stress test, but we do plan on having a version for people who are in these countries that have a lot more stricter compliance issues. I do know of one that will be released for the United States here in the next couple months. So, just because currently we put these mechanisms in, it's not something that, we want to have like full control over. Like, even if we do implement a full like KYC policy, like the lawyers are like, you have to do this. We're like, okay, we're not going to be collecting the information. Like, we don't want that liability. We don't want, that was not ever part of our ethos. I mean, it really kind of is on the border of like compelling speech too, like telling us, oh, you have to code this, and that's a no-go. That's, you got to draw a line somewhere. I mean, but at the same time, we don't want to ruffle any feathers. We don't want to, there's a million scammers out there and stuff that, the governments can focus on. We don't want them to come after us just because, we might get successful, right? So,
That's right.
It's you got to walk the tightrope of, being compliant, but also, holding to your morals and your ideals.
Advancing humanity, building for the future. I mean, that's what you're doing, and of course, it's a challenge because it messes with the. I don't want to use the word status quo. It messes just with what's familiar and what's used to, and when you're breaking those patterns and bringing in this type of technology, which is they don't have no idea how to think about this stuff, so it'll work itself out over time. I imagine. I'm curious what you think, but I think it'll work itself out over time, and the technology is there to get around all of this stuff anyway. I mean, that's the nature of this technology, which is why I don't think it's as big of a deal. And I wasn't even going to really bring it up because I think that's kind of to the side right now, and looking forward ahead at all the great possibilities. I don't even think it's like a tiny little speed bump at this point. Yeah, I hope that's what it's like, but we'll see.
Yeah, we have to just be careful, and we really need advocacy. We need people to start standing up, start writing their local representatives and such, and higher up the chain as possible as well, because it's quite obvious that a lot of these lawmakers have no, they never probably owned any Bitcoin or anything. They're really instituting draconian policies. Like just in the U.S., some lawmaker proposed a bill that was basically gave entire power of any stablecoin issuance and even using stablecoins to banks. Like you had to be a chartered bank, you had to be approved by the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and a bunch of other stupid requirements, and that just cuts out everybody. So you're like, they're basically saying that, oh, even though you have the tech capability and such that you could launch an entire stablecoin and such, we're going to add another $20 million price tag to that just to get the license, and then better grease some palms to different people to actually get the approval needed. And Europe is looking at doing the same thing as well. So like we really need to start standing up and advocating for our interests, because we really only have these institutional guys who are doing it, and they don't, they're used to seeing things through that bank world. So it's not anything real different for them. But for the people that crypto was really trying to help and to really change our society and our future, the average person's needs and wants have to be taken in consideration, but they won't be unless our governments know what they are, and we can actually defend those arguments to them. Because I mean, obviously, we could say make everything legal, nothing. They're not gonna get with that, right? So we have to actually posit a workable plan for them as well, because they don't know anything. So
one little step at a time, and sometimes it'll take steps back, but the trend is I see the trend. I'm looking, for example, specifically at United States. I see Wyoming as being a good spot for things to incubate, and there's a lot of positive awareness there and a will to move forward in that direction. And then you also have, as far as I can tell, Charles Hoskinson there looking to go in there and implement some of these technologies. And again, I think as little successes are had, it's just going to spread more and more, and the game theory will play out as well, where the places which are adverse and restrictive, they're just not going to fare as well, unless we get a complete gripping over everything globally and we get that whole prison planet thing. But we can talk about that another time.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and that's why we need to fight so that doesn't happen. Because I can't say this for all projects, but at least I know there's a lot of developers that are going to release software regardless of what the government says. And it's because it's viewed as like a fundamental, human right violation. You can't tell me what to code, what to say, what's proper speech. I mean, yeah, you can regulate the usage of the software and such like that. That's understandable. But to say that you have to do this or you're, going to jail and especially, some of the crimes that they're even trying to charge, these blockchain companies with, like money transmission stuff, carry very heavy, penalties, which is, is really used as, I think, a big deterrent.
Intimidation. Yeah, intimidation. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
deterrent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, well, cool. I don't want to take this too much further.
Yeah, sorry
And
about
no,
that.
no, please don't apologize. I really appreciate you coming on and being so candid, and I think we've covered a lot of good stuff here. I I'm curious if there's anything you think we've missed, anything you want to say specifically. I did want to mention that I do see Komodo being one of those torchbearers, and that's great. It's always been a mission, and I think Komodo is doing a good job of fulfilling their vision and mission. Which, even such a pivot as getting rid of the privacy component of the Komodo coin, but then you still have the tech, and you're able to juke it over in that direction, and now you have this whole new blossoming community through pirate chain, and that's just one tiny little example, right? And so I think this is very fun, and I look forward to what's going to happen in the coming time. So yeah, is there anything that you think we missed, or that you want to say specifically?
I mean, just one thing. This upcoming week here, we will be launching our stress test on the 12th and 13th. We have several, like over a half dozen coin communities currently participating, and I think we're approaching was close to 1,000 now signups for testing. Now you don't have to sign up to test. People like me, for instance, we're just going to swap regardless of signing up. So, don't think that's a requirement. You could participate even if you didn't sign up. There will be some bounties, there'll be some prizes, and different coin communities are also doing their own bounties and stuff as well with it. So, we encourage everyone to participate. That's find out any last final bugs and such, and hopefully everything goes well, and then we'll be able to have a more we'll have a stable release for next year.
Sounds great. Sounds very good. I appreciate very much coming on and having a chat with us. I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation and took something from it. There was plenty there, I think. Thanks for keeping tuned in. We'll talk to you again another time. All right, bye everyone. See you soon.